The sky burned red as strange objects pierced through Earth's atmosphere. People across the world stopped and pointed upward, their faces a mix of wonder and fear. In Washington, D.C., Dr. Alan Wright was pulled from his bed at 3 a.m. by stern-faced government agents. "We need you at the facility now, Doctor," said the lead agent, offering no chance for questions. Across town, Major Lisa Cortez received similar treatment. Her military training kicked in as she grabbed her go-bag and followed the agents to a waiting helicopter. 30 minutes later, Alan and Lisa sat in a windowless room beneath the Pentagon. Screens covered the walls, each showing the objects slowing their descent over major cities: New York, London, Tokyo, Sydney, Cairo. "What are we looking at?" Lisa asked, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. General Harris stepped forward. "First contact, Major. These objects have not responded to any communications. They're slowing down. Landing patterns." Alan adjusted his glasses. Their trajectory changed mid-flight. "These aren't meteors. They're ships." The room fell silent as the largest object settled in Central Park. News helicopters circled at a distance, broadcasting to the world. A seam appeared in the smooth black surface of the ship, then another. The side opened like a blooming flower. They emerged, 9 feet tall, scales that shifted color in the sunlight, powerful limbs ending in claws, reptilian heads with rows of teeth that glinted like knives. "My God," Alan whispered. The aliens, the Vorkon, as the world would soon learn, moved with frightening speed for their size. They surveyed their surroundings with cold, calculating eyes. Similar scenes played out across the globe as world leaders scrambled to respond. Within hours, the United Nations convened an emergency session. The Secretary General stood before the Assembly, speaking words of peace and welcome. A Vorkon envoy was brought in under heavy guard. Alan and Lisa watched the broadcast with growing unease. "Something's wrong," Lisa said. "Look at its posture. It's like a cat about to pounce." The words had barely left her mouth when the Vorkon lunged forward. The Secretary General's screams echoed through the speakers as the alien tore into him on live television. Chaos erupted in the Assembly Hall. The feed cut out. Alarms blared throughout the Pentagon. Reports flooded in from around the world. The ships were opening. Thousands of Vorkon poured out, attacking anyone in sight. "They're not here for resources or territory," Alan realized, horror dawning on his face. "They're apex predators. We're prey." General Harris barked orders, mobilizing what forces he could. "Cortez, get right to the Colorado facility. His research might give us an edge." The building shook as the first explosions hit Washington. Lisa grabbed Alan's arm, pulling him toward the emergency exit. They emerged into daylight to see the sky filled with smaller alien craft, raining destruction on the Capitol. "This way," Lisa shouted, leading Alan to a military jeep. They sped through streets already filling with panicked civilians. A Vorkon landed on a car ahead of them, crushing the roof. Its scales shifted to match the surroundings, a perfect camouflage broken only by movement. Lisa swerved, narrowly avoiding its leap toward them. "They adapt quickly," Alan noted, clutching the dashboard. "Save the scientific observations for when we're safe," Lisa replied, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. They made it to the edge of the city as Washington fell. Looking back, they saw the White House in flames, alien ships hovering over the National Mall. Night was falling. The first day of the invasion was ending, but the horror was just beginning. Humanity's position as Earth's dominant species was over. The hunt had begun. Alan looked at Lisa, determination replacing fear. "They think we're just prey," he said quietly. "They have no idea what humans can do when we're cornered." Lisa nodded, turning the jeep west. "Then let's show them." 3 months passed since the day the world changed forever. The Vorkon now controlled most major cities. Humans who weren't captured fled to remote areas, trying to stay alive. In the dense forests of Montana, Jack Harlow crouched behind a fallen tree. The former park ranger adjusted his worn cap and peered through his binoculars. Half a mile away, 3 Vorkons stalked through a mountain clearing, their scales shifting to match the autumn colors around them. "They're still having trouble with the cold," Jack whispered to the woman beside him. Susan Miller, once a high school science teacher, now his second-in-command, nodded. Their movements slow down when the temperature drops below 50 degrees. Jack's group had discovered this weakness by accident when they ambushed a Vorkon patrol during an early snowfall. The alien scales couldn't adjust quickly enough to the white backdrop, making them visible for critical extra seconds. "Let's head back. The others should be returning from the supply run," Jack said. Their hideout was an old ranger station, modified with underground spaces dug by hand over desperate weeks. 23 survivors now called it home. They were not soldiers, just regular people learning to fight back. As Jack and Susan approached the hidden entrance, they heard voices. A new group had arrived. 5 tired-looking people led by a woman with short, dark hair and military bearing. "Major Lisa Cortez, United States Army," she said, extending her hand to Jack. "What's left of it, anyway?" Jack studied her carefully before shaking it. "Jack Harlow. Where did you come from?" "Colorado. Our base was overrun 2 weeks ago. We've been moving north ever since," Lisa explained. "The aliens seem to struggle more in the mountains." That night, around a carefully shielded fire, Lisa shared what she knew. The Vorkon had established processing centers in major cities, where captured humans were sorted. Some became food. Others were released into special hunting zones for sport. "They're treating Earth like their personal game reserve," Lisa said bitterly. But they didn't count on the game fighting back. She told them about resistance cells forming across the country, about Dr. Alan Wright working on understanding alien technology, about a communications specialist named Kevin Rodriguez trying to link survivors together. "We need to be more than just survivors," Lisa urged. "We need to study them, find their weaknesses, become hunters ourselves." The next morning, Jack led Lisa and a small team to a ridge overlooking a valley. A Vorkon patrol moved below them, following a river path. "They always take the easiest route," Jack observed. "They're apex predators, used to being unchallenged. Makes them predictable." Lisa smiled for the first time in weeks. "Let's use that." They set their trap at a narrow point in the trail. Old hunting nets weighted with rocks hung above. Tripwires connected to noisemakers made from cans would drive the aliens exactly where they wanted them. Everything went according to plan until the last moment. The lead Vorkon stopped, sensing something wrong. It raised its head, sniffing the air. "Now," Jack shouted. The nets dropped. 2 Vorkon were caught immediately. The third leaped aside with incredible speed, but landed on the loose rocks Susan had positioned earlier. It tumbled down the slope, roaring in rage. Lisa fired 3 shots from her rifle. The alien collapsed, green fluid leaking from its wounds. "It's still alive," she said, approaching cautiously. Jack's group had never managed to capture one alive before. The wounded Vorkon hissed and struggled weakly. "Get Olivia," Jack told Susan. "She needs to see this." Olivia Bennett arrived minutes later. The former veterinarian was the closest thing they had to a doctor. She examined the alien from a safe distance, her eyes widening. "Its blood is changing color as it's exposed to our air," she noted. "And look at the reaction where your bullets entered. Something in our atmosphere affects them." For the first time since the invasion, Jack felt a spark of real hope. The predators had a weakness, and now humanity would learn to exploit it. 6 months into the invasion, winter gripped the northern states. In a basement below an abandoned radio station in Nebraska, Kevin Rodriguez hunched over a collection of jury-rigged equipment. The former IT specialist had spent weeks gathering parts, building a system that could send messages without the Vorkon detecting them. Kevin rubbed his tired eyes and checked the signal again. It was weak but clear. Another resistance group in Ohio had made contact. That made 7 groups now connected through his network. "Any response from the Colorado facility?" asked Carol Martinez. The ex-FBI agent had become Kevin's protector and partner over the past month. Kevin shook his head. "Nothing yet. But the signal reaches that far. I'm sure of it." Carol handed him a cup of lukewarm coffee. "If Alan Wright is still alive, your message will reach him." 200 miles away, in a hidden military bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Alan Wright was very much alive. He stared at a piece of alien technology spread across his workbench. What had once been a Vorkon weapon now lay disassembled, its inner workings exposed. "The power source is unlike anything we've seen before," Alan explained to the small team of surviving scientists and engineers. "It draws energy directly from the air around it." Colonel Wade, the highest-ranking military officer left in the facility, frowned. "Can we replicate it?" "Not yet," Alan admitted, "but we're learning. Each piece we recover teaches us more." A young technician burst into the lab. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission. It's in code, but it matches the emergency protocols set up before we lost contact with command." Alan followed Wade to the communications room. The message was repeating, "To all survivors, you are not alone. Respond on this frequency with location and status." "It could be a trap," Wade warned. Alan studied the code structure. "No, this is human work. Clever, too. The signal mimics background radiation patterns. The Vorkon wouldn't think to look for it." Wade hesitated, then nodded to the technician. "Send response. Keep it brief." Outside Cleveland, Ohio, in an abandoned shopping mall, a small resistance cell led by Donna Harris received Kevin's message and sent their own reply. The former postal worker had organized 30 survivors into a scavenging team that specialized in raiding Vorkon food storage facilities. "They're storing human food," Donna explained to her newest recruits. "They don't eat it themselves, but they keep it to lure us in." Her second-in-command, Rick Powell, pointed to a hand-drawn map. "Their patterns are changing. They're becoming more methodical in their hunts." Donna nodded grimly. "They're learning about us, just as we're learning about them." That night, Kevin's equipment picked up a new signal. This one was different, stronger, and using military-grade encryption. His heart raced as he decoded it. "Colorado facility is operational. Dr. Wright requests all information on Vorkon biology and behavior." Carol read the message over his shoulder. "This changes everything. If Alan's team can analyze what we've all learned independently." Kevin was already typing responses to all the connected groups, requesting they share their observations. Within hours, reports began flowing in. From Montana, aliens showed decreased activity in cold temperatures. Captured specimen reacted negatively to common soil bacteria. From Ohio, Vorkon hunting parties follow predictable patterns. They return to ships every 3 days to report. From Texas, they can't see well in heavy rain. Their scale-shifting abilities fail when wet. Kevin compiled everything into a single encrypted file and sent it to Colorado. For the first time since the invasion, humanity was working together, sharing knowledge across the scattered remains of civilization. In his lab, Alan received the data and called an emergency meeting. As he read through the reports, a pattern emerged. The Vorkon evolved on a world very different from Earth, he explained to Wade and the others. "Our planet is hostile to them in ways we haven't fully appreciated. They're struggling with our atmosphere, our weather, our bacteria." Wade leaned forward. "You're saying they have weaknesses?" Alan nodded, hope visible on his face for the first time in months. "Many of them, and now we know what they are." The mountain air was crisp as Jack's team moved through the forest. Each person carried a new weapon, modified rifles with special ammunition developed by Alan's team in Colorado. They approached the Vorkon outpost that had been built near what used to be a small tourist town. "Remember," Jack whispered to the group, "aim for the spots where their scales meet. That's where they're most vulnerable." Lisa checked her weapon. After months of fighting alongside Jack's people, she had become a key part of their team. She had also brought vital tactical knowledge from her military background. "They'll have sentries posted in the high points," she said. "We take those out first, silently." The plan worked perfectly. Susan and 2 others used crossbows to eliminate the guards without alerting the main force. The resistance fighters positioned themselves around the outpost, ready for Jack's signal. When it came, a bird call that sounded just like the local jays. 20 humans attacked at once. The Vorkon were caught completely by surprise. The special ammunition, normal bullets coated with a substance Olivia had developed from local soil bacteria, did more than physical damage. It caused the alien scales to seize up, preventing them from adapting to their surroundings. "It's working," Susan shouted as she saw a Vorkon fall, its body unable to maintain its camouflage. In 15 minutes, it was over. The outpost was theirs, with minimal human casualties. More importantly, they had captured intact alien technology and communication devices. Kevin would be thrilled. This was exactly what he needed to expand his network. 1,000 miles away, in his Nebraska hideout, Kevin was indeed making progress. He had successfully linked 12 resistance groups across the country. The knowledge sharing had accelerated their understanding of the enemy. "Look at this," he told Carol, pointing to his screen. "The Vorkon are sending regular reports back to their homeworld." Carol leaned closer. "Can you intercept the messages?" "Better," Kevin grinned. "I can change them." In Colorado, Alan received word of Jack's successful raid. The alien technology would be delivered to his team within days, but he had made a breakthrough of his own. "Their weapons aren't designed to kill," he explained to Colonel Wade. "They're designed to incapacitate. They want live prey." Wade frowned. "How does that help us?" "It means their technology has built-in limitations," Alan replied. "They're hunters, not soldiers. They never expected to fight a war." At that moment, a technician rushed in. "Sir, we've got contact with the Montana group. Major Cortez is on the line." Lisa's voice came through the speakers, tired but triumphant. "Dr. Wright, we've secured a Vorkon outpost. But there's something you need to know. They're planning something big. Some kind of harvest operation." Alan's face paled. "Get here as fast as you can. Bring everything you found." 3 days later, Lisa arrived at the Colorado facility with Jack and Olivia. They brought the captured alien devices and, more importantly, information about the Vorkon's plans. "They're rounding up humans from all the major cities," Lisa explained during the briefing, "taking them to processing centers." Olivia, who had continued her study of Vorkon biology, added, "The captives are being sorted. The strongest are kept alive in some kind of holding facility." "A larder," Jack said grimly. "They're storing food." Ellen connected this information with data from other resistance groups. According to Kevin's intelligence, the Vorkon are preparing for the arrival of more ships, a second wave. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Colonel Wade finally spoke. "How much time do we have?" "Based on the communication patterns, 2 weeks at most," Alan replied. Wade stood up. "Then we have 2 weeks to hit them with everything we've got, starting with those processing centers." For the first time since the invasion began, humanity was no longer just surviving. They were fighting back with purpose and coordination. The Vorkon had expected easy prey. Instead, they had awakened a species that refused to be hunted. The tide was beginning to turn. Alan stared at the holographic projection of the Vorkon command ship. The alien vessel hung in low Earth orbit, a massive dark shape against the stars. Thanks to the data recovered from the outpost, they now had detailed schematics of its interior. "It's like their version of a hive," he explained to the team gathered around the table. "All commands flow from here. If we can disable it, the ground forces will be thrown into chaos." Colonel Wade shook his head. "Getting up there is impossible. We don't have spacecraft capable of reaching it." "We don't need our spacecraft," Lisa said. pointing to a section of the map. "Look here. They have smaller shuttles that travel between the ship and the surface daily." Jack leaned forward. "You want to hijack one of their shuttles? That's suicide." "Not with the right team," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see a tall, muscular man standing in the doorway. His face was weathered, with a scar running down his left cheek. "Ryan Daniels," he said by way of introduction. "Former Navy SEAL. Carol Martinez sent me." Ryan had been part of a special operations team when the invasion began. He and his unit had survived by stealing Vorkon equipment and learning to use it against them. "I've flown one of their shuttles," he told the stunned group. "Crashed it, actually, but I understand how they work. With Dr. Wright's help, I could do it again, without the crashing part." Over the next 3 days, a plan took shape. Ryan would lead a small team, including Lisa and Alan, to capture a shuttle and infiltrate the command ship. Once aboard, they would plant explosive devices at key points. "The goal is to cripple their command structure, not destroy the ship entirely," Alan reminded them. "If we can disrupt their communications, the ground forces will be isolated." Meanwhile, Jack and Olivia would lead a coordinated attack on a processing center near Denver. This would serve as a distraction, drawing attention away from the shuttle capture. Kevin worked around the clock to ensure all resistance groups were ready. On the morning of the mission, he sent a final message. "Operation Trojan Horse begins at dawn. Good luck." The sunrise painted the sky red as Jack's team moved into position around the processing center. They had grown from 20 survivors to over 100 fighters, all armed with weapons designed to exploit Vorkon weaknesses. "Remember," Jack told them, "our job is to make as much noise as possible. Keep them focused on us." Across the state, Ryan's smaller team waited in the foothills near a Vorkon landing zone. They wore improvised armor made from alien materials, designed by Alan to mimic Vorkon heat signatures. 2 minutes, Ryan whispered, checking the timer on his wrist. Precisely on schedule, the world erupted in chaos. Jack's team launched their attack, setting off explosions around the processing center perimeter. The Vorkon responded immediately, pouring out of the facility to defend it. Miles away, Ryan's team moved silently toward the landing zone. A shuttle descended, right on schedule. 2 Vorkon guards met it, receiving a container of supplies. Ryan gave the signal. His team struck with precision, taking down the guards with bacteria-laced darts. They rushed the shuttle before the pilot could react. "Now," Ryan shouted. Lisa and Alan boarded the craft while Ryan subdued the pilot. Within minutes, they had control of the shuttle. "I can't believe that worked," Alan said, his hands shaking as he examined the alien controls. "Don't celebrate yet," Ryan replied grimly. "Getting up there is the easy part." The shuttle rose into the sky, following the pre-programmed return path to the command ship. Inside, the team prepared their weapons and explosives. Each person knew this might be a one-way trip. As the shuttle approached the massive vessel, Lisa looked at Alan. "If we don't make it back." "We will," he interrupted. "We have to. Humanity is counting on us." The shuttle docked with a metallic clang. The interior door began to open. The team readied themselves for what waited on the other side, and for the mission that would determine the fate of their species. The inside of the Vorkon command ship was hot and humid. Lisa felt sweat running down her back as she followed Ryan through the narrow corridors. Alan moved behind her, carrying a backpack filled with explosive devices. 2 other team members brought up the rear, weapons ready. "Their life support is set for their home world," Alan whispered. "Much warmer and wetter than Earth." Ryan held up his hand, signaling them to stop. Ahead, 2 Vorkon guards stood at an intersection. The team pressed against the wall, waiting. "We need to get past them without raising an alarm," Ryan said softly. Lisa reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device Alan had designed. It emitted sounds at frequencies that humans couldn't hear, but that were painful to Vorkon ears. She activated it and tossed it down a side corridor. The effect was immediate. The guards clutched their heads and moved toward the sound, leaving their post unguarded. "Now," Ryan whispered. The team hurried past, deeper into the ship. According to the schematics, they needed to place explosives at 5 key locations: the communication hub, the power core, the life support system, the bridge, and the central computer. "We'll split up," Ryan decided. "Lisa and I will take the bridge. Alan, you and Ben take the computer center. Sam and Dave handle the power core." Each team took their share of explosives and separated. They had 30 minutes to place the charges and return to the shuttle. Back on Earth, Jack's attack on the processing center was going better than expected. The resistance fighters had freed over 300 human captives and were holding their ground against Vorkon counterattacks. "They're fighting differently," Jack told Olivia as they helped evacuate the freed prisoners. "More scattered, less coordinated." Olivia nodded. Ryan's team must have reached the command ship. Kevin's voice crackled over their radio. "Denver team, this is base. We're seeing strange activity in Vorkon communications. They're sending confused messages to each other." Jack smiled grimly. "It's working. Tell all teams to press their attacks now, while the enemy is disorganized." Aboard the command ship, Lisa and Ryan reached the bridge. The large chamber was filled with Vorkon officers, their scales shimmering in the dim light. "We'll never get in there unnoticed," Lisa whispered. Ryan studied the room. "We don't need to. Look there." He pointed to a ventilation shaft above them. "That runs behind the bridge. We can place the charges there." While they worked, Alan and Ben reached the central computer. Unlike the bridge, this room was nearly empty, with just one Vorkon technician monitoring the systems. Ben took aim with his silenced weapon and fired. The bacteria-laced dart hit the alien in the neck, between its scales. It dropped without a sound. "Hurry," Ben urged as Alan set to work placing explosives around the massive computer banks. Alan paused, staring at the alien data flowing across the screens. "Wait, this is incredible. They're sending a transmission to their homeworld. I need to see this." He quickly connected a device to the computer, downloading as much data as he could. "This could tell us everything about them. Their plans, their weaknesses, maybe even the location of their homeworld." The timer on his wrist beeped. 10 minutes left. In the power core, Sam and Dave had successfully planted their charges. As they turned to leave, a door opened and 3 Vorkon engineers entered. "Run," Sam shouted, firing his weapon. The aliens responded with their own weapons, filling the corridor with energy blasts. Dave was hit in the leg. Sam grabbed him, and they limped toward the rendezvous point, aliens in pursuit. All across the ship, alarms began to sound. The Vorkon had discovered the intruders. Ryan's voice came through Lisa's earpiece. "All teams, abort mission. Get to the shuttle now. We've been compromised." Lisa and Ryan ran through the corridors, dodging enemy fire. They met Alan and Ben at an intersection, all 4 sprinting toward the docking bay. "Where are Sam and Dave?" Lisa asked. The sound of gunfire answered her question. Sam appeared at the end of the corridor, supporting a badly wounded Dave. "Go," Sam shouted. "I'll hold them off." Ryan hesitated, then grabbed Lisa's arm. "We have to go. Now." As they reached the shuttle, an explosion rocked the ship. Sam had detonated his charges early, buying them time to escape. The shuttle detached from the command ship just as the first explosions began to tear through its interior. Behind them, the massive vessel began to break apart, pieces of it burning as they entered Earth's atmosphere. News of the command ship's destruction spread quickly among human resistance groups. Victory celebrations broke out in hidden bases across the country. But the war was far from over. The remaining Vorkon forces on Earth were now leaderless but still dangerous. Without central command, they reverted to their instinctive hunting behaviors. Some fought among themselves for dominance. Others formed smaller packs and continued their attacks on humans with increased savagery. At the Colorado facility, Alan worked day and night analyzing the data he had stolen from the alien computer. "There's something here we didn't know," he told Lisa and Colonel Wade. "The Vorkon didn't just randomly choose Earth. They've done this before, on at least 7 other worlds." Lisa leaned over the screen, studying the alien text Alan had partially translated. "They're planet hoppers. They find worlds with suitable prey, hunt until the population is nearly gone, then move on. And according to this data, they've established a final gathering point." Alan continued. "The remaining Vorkon are being drawn to a location in the Amazon rainforest." Colonel Wade frowned. "Why there?" "It's closest to their home environment," Alan explained. "Hot, humid, dense vegetation. Perfect hunting grounds for them. They're building something there, possibly a beacon to call for rescue from their fleet." Kevin's voice joined the conversation through the speaker system. His communication network now linked all major resistance groups worldwide. "I can confirm that," he said. "We're seeing Vorkon forces abandoning positions across North America and Europe, all heading south." Carol Martinez, who had traveled to Colorado with Kevin's latest intelligence reports, studied the satellite imagery on the screens. "They're concentrating their forces. This could be our chance to end this once and for all." Within days, a plan was formed. Jack would lead a combined force of the best fighters from resistance groups across the continent. Lisa would provide military strategy. Olivia would supply them with her latest bacterial weapons. Their mission: infiltrate the Vorkon stronghold in the Amazon and destroy their leadership structure completely. As preparations were made, Ryan trained the strike team in Vorkon combat tactics. "They're stronger and faster than us," he reminded them. "But they're overconfident. They don't expect prey to fight back effectively." The night before they were to depart, Jack found Lisa staring at the stars outside the facility. "Thinking about Sam?" he asked quietly. Lisa nodded. She still felt guilty about leaving him behind on the command ship. "He saved us all. And we'll make sure it wasn't for nothing," Jack promised. At dawn, 4 helicopters lifted off from the Colorado facility, carrying 36 fighters. The best humanity had to offer. They would rendezvous with South American resistance groups at a hidden base in Colombia before making their final approach to the Vorkon stronghold. The journey south was tense but uneventful. When they landed in Colombia, they were met by a group of fighters led by Elena Diaz, a former park ranger who knew the Amazon better than anyone. "The aliens have built their base around an ancient temple," Elena explained, showing them her hand-drawn maps. "They've cleared the jungle for half a mile in every direction. No cover for approach." Jack studied the maps. "Then we don't approach above ground." Elena smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that. There are cave systems that run beneath the temple. They're partially flooded this time of year. The Vorkon hate water," Lisa remembered. "Their scales can't adapt properly when wet." Ryan checked his weapons, "So we come at them from below, through their blind spot." As the combined human forces prepared for the final assault, Kevin's voice came through on their secure radio channel. "We're seeing unusual activity at the Vorkon base. Satellite imagery shows they've assembled some kind of transmitter. And there's something else. Heat signatures indicate one Vorkon that's much larger than the others." Alan's voice followed. "That must be their supreme hunter. The leader of the entire invasion force. According to the data I recovered, it's the oldest and most experienced of their kind." Jack checked his rifle, loaded with Olivia's special ammunition. "Then that's our primary target." The strike team moved out at nightfall, entering the flooded caves that would lead them beneath the enemy stronghold. They waded through chest-deep water, guided by Elena's knowledge of the underground passages. Above them, unaware of the approaching danger, the Vorkon Supreme Hunter prepared to call its fleet for extraction. The hunt on Earth had proven more difficult than anticipated. It was time to gather the survivors of its kind and move on to easier prey elsewhere in the galaxy. Water dripped from the strike team's clothes as they emerged from the flooded tunnels. They had reached a dry chamber beneath the ancient temple that now served as the Vorkon headquarters. Above them, They could hear the heavy footsteps of alien guards. Jack signaled to the team to prepare their weapons. Belina pointed to a crumbling stone staircase that would lead them up into the temple itself. According to the heat signatures, the Supreme Hunter should be in the central chamber, Lisa whispered, checking the small tracking device Alan had given her. Ryan nodded. Remember, stay together and watch each other's backs. These are the elite of their kind. Jack took a deep breath and gave the signal to move. The team ascended the stairs silently, emerging into a dimly lit stone corridor. The air was thick with humidity, designed to make the Vorkon comfortable. The first guards they encountered were dispatched quickly and quietly. But as they approached the central chamber, the resistance fighters found themselves facing more and more alien defenders. A firefight erupted in the narrow hallways. The humans used their knowledge of Vorkon weaknesses, aiming for the joints between scales and using Olivia's bacterial ammunition. Still, 3 of their team fell to alien weapons. Heat pushing forward, Jack shouted as they fought their way closer to the main chamber. In the heart of the temple, the Supreme Hunter sensed the disturbance. Unlike its subordinates, this Vorkon was ancient and cunning. It had survived hundreds of hunts across multiple worlds. Its scales were scared and discolored from countless battles, but its eyes burned with intelligence and rage. It activated the beacon, sending a signal to the Vorkon fleet. Then it prepared for battle. The human strike team finally broke through to the central chamber. It was an enormous room with a high ceiling, dominated by a stone altar that now supported advanced alien technology, the beacon. Standing beside it was the Supreme Hunter. It stood at least 12 feet tall, dwarfing the other Vorkon they had encountered. Its scales shifted colors slowly, a sign of its age and power. "That's it," Lisa whispered. "The leader." The Supreme Hunter roared, a sound that shook dust from the ancient ceiling. Around it, dozens of elite Vorkon warriors formed a protective circle. The battle that followed was fierce and bloody. The human fighters used every tactic they had learned over months of resistance. They deployed Olivia's bacterial grenades, creating zones where the Vorkon scales failed to adapt. They used the water from their soaked clothes to splash the aliens, disrupting their camouflage abilities. One by one, the Vorkon elite fell. But the Supreme Hunter seemed immune to their tactics. Its ancient scales had adapted over centuries of hunting on different worlds. Jack watched as Ryan emptied an entire clip into the creature with little effect. Lisa tried to flank it, but was swatted aside like a toy. Elena managed to hit it with a bacterial grenade, which slowed it momentarily before it shook off the effects. "The beacon," Jack shouted, pointing to the alien device. "Destroy it." Lisa crawled toward the altar while Jack and the others distracted the Supreme Hunter. She placed her last explosives on the device and set the timer. "Everyone out," she called. 30 seconds. The team began to retreat, but the Supreme Hunter moved with surprising speed for its size, blocking their escape route. It seemed to understand what they had done. Jack found himself face to face with the creature. In its eyes, he saw something he never expected: fear. For the first time, the apex predator was afraid of its prey. Jack raised his rifle, now empty of ammunition, and charged. The Supreme Hunter swept him aside, but Jack had created the opening his team needed. They rushed past, heading for the exit tunnels. The explosives detonated, destroying the beacon and bringing down much of the ancient temple. The Supreme Hunter roared in rage as its link to its fleet was severed. Outside, in the cleared jungle around the temple, Jack regained consciousness. Lisa was helping him to his feet as the structure collapsed behind them. "Did we get it?" he asked, his voice weak. Lisa shook her head. "It survived. But it's trapped, and its signal is destroyed." Kevin's voice came through their radio. "All Vorkon forces worldwide are in disarray. Without the Supreme Hunter's commands, they're fighting among themselves." 3 days later, a combined human force returned to the temple ruins. They found the Supreme Hunter badly injured but still alive. It watched them approach, no longer the confident apex predator, but a defeated invader on a world that had refused to be conquered. Jack stepped forward, rifle raised. "Your hunt is over," he said simply. The alien seemed to understand. It straightened to its full height, accepting its fate as Jack pulled the trigger. 1 year later, Alan stood before the new United Earth Defense Council. On screens behind him were images of the stars. The Vorkon were just one species among many, he told the assembled leaders. Using their technology, we've learned about dozens of other civilizations. Some may be friendly. Others may follow the Vorkon example. Lisa, now General Cortez, nodded in agreement, which is why we need to be ready. Around the world, humans were rebuilding. Salvaged alien technology was being integrated into new defense systems. Jack and Elena led training programs for a new generation of defenders. Kevin's communication network had evolved into a global early warning system. Humanity had been tested and had emerged stronger. The predators had become the prey, and Earth had learned a valuable lesson. The universe was full of dangers, but humans would never again be easy targets. They would always fight back.